Hello and welcome to the Space Between Ideas. I'm Blaine Gates with my new haircut, and it's day 76. So, day 76, it just seems like, when you get past the second third, like the two-thirds mark, when you get past two-thirds, it just seems like the difference between two-thirds and three-quarters it just always disappears like magic. So, we're now done three quarters of this challenge, and really, like, I guess it's really difficult because it's like really late tonight. Uh just so many things happened today, and I almost forgot, like I was ready to head to bed. I just remember it's really tough actually to do its 101-day challenge. If you think it's easy, then go ahead and do one. All right, so yesterday I was like telling you about this, like my life right now. Like I'm thinking about like living in Belarus, living in Russia. In general, I would say that this isn't really a choice, like because I'm actually in the path. I'm in Belarus because I want to go to Russia, and then I'm going to go to Russia once I'm able to go to Russia. So I'm not really actually choosing between these two. You could say to some degree, but on the other hand, maybe I am, because like I don't actually have to go to Russia, and I don't actually have to be here, and I don't have to be in Canada, or I could be in a third country. So there's like four possibilities, right? I can stay in Canada. I could live in another country, even Russian speaking countries. I could go to the Ukraine. I could go to Kyrgyzstan. I already looked on the websites, and I can go to Ukraine for 2 months. Was it 2 months or 1 month? I think no, it's 3 months. It's 90 days. As a Canadian, I can go to the Ukraine for 3 months without a visa. Like it's like a 3 month visa. And then Kyrgyzstan, I could go to Kyrgyzstan for 2 months. But who wants to go to Kyrgyzstan? I don't know. I kind of like. There's part of me that wants to go to Kyrgyzstan and just see like what does this place look like? Because I've met like that. The thing about like you know, in some of the videos that you've seen on my channel, I'm actually living in a hostel, and there's like a lot of people in this hostel, and there's a lot of people from former Soviet Union countries that speak Russian. And since I'm learning Russian, it's like really interesting, especially because with another guy that I have lessons with a couple of times a week. We discuss politics and history and like policy and things like that. And he's from Russia. And so we've spent quite a bit of time talking about the fall of the Soviet Union and how like the differences between countries as they moved from communism into market economies and some of the problems that they've had. And then as we're having these discussions and as I'm learning Russian and my level is increasing, next thing you know, I'm in this room with a bunch of people, and this guy is from Kyrgyzstan, this guy is from Kazakhstan, this guy is from the Ukraine, this guy is from Russia, this guy's from Belarus, this guy's from Latvia, this guy's from Poland, and you're just like, whoa, this is like the former Soviet Union. It's really, really fascinating for me, maybe not for you. So when we're talking about analysis of scenarios. Like that's what we're talking about, right? So today's theme, we talked yesterday about what? We talked about the differences. What's the difference? And today is the similarity, similarities. All right, so these are themes for metrics. All right, so when the themes for evaluation, you want to think about the emphasis when analyzing multiple scenarios. The emphasis, all right? So the first two steps are to look at the similarities and to look at the differences. Now, what does that mean exactly? So you can find differences between results, between services, between products, between skills. All right, so there's a lot of different things you can look for when you're talking about differences, talking about skill, products and services and providers, and what exactly can you get from these different offerings, or what exactly are you trying to offer? So in my simple situation, I'm just talking about like what? All right, so what are the similarities? All right. So if I go to the Ukraine, or if I go to Russia, or if I stay in Belarus, I can learn Russian. I can be in an environment where there are constantly Russian people around me. So, for example, like when I went to get a haircut, like I had to walk into a building and I had to somehow communicate the idea that I wanted to know the price. And then they had to communicate the idea that you need to wait. And then I asked the price before they cut the hair. Surprisingly, the price changed a little bit. Surprisingly or unsurprisingly, the price changed just slightly after the haircut was finished. But before the haircut started, I had to communicate in Russian what kind of hair I wanted, what kind of hairstyle I wanted. And I want these types of experiences. All right. So when you look at the differences between living here and living in Canada, like why did I live in China for 10 years? Why did I live in Saudi Arabia? Why did I live in Russia? Why did I live in France for 6 months? Why did I live in all these different countries? Why did I live in the US for 4 years? All right, so the US was completely different. Those were completely different motivations. But in general, I have this path of languages that I want to study. And so, yeah, so living in Canada is like right now in my life, it's not an option because the difference is I cannot study Russian in Canada. Well, no, I can study online, but I'm not in a Russian speaking environment. Also, if you noticed, if you've been watching, if you checked my Preply link, the link where you can sign up for a class with me to talk about these themes, so I can listen to you to talk about the scenarios that you're thinking about. So I can ask you to tell me what are the similarities between the different scenarios that you're considering, and what are the differences, what are the similarities, what are the differences. All right, so if you want to have that discussion with me, then you can click the link down below and go to Preply and order your first hour with me. And why is it that I can handle such a low rate? It's because, like, if I was living in Canada, I couldn't work for this low rate. But since I'm living in Eastern Europe, the prices are relatively low. And so I've decided to pass on those savings to my students. I prefer to call them clients, and I prefer to call myself a coach rather than a teacher. But I can pass on those. So that's another difference. It's like if I was living in Canada, I wouldn't be able to work for that same price. I wouldn't be able to give you that low price for the value that I'm offering you. And so, but I can do that in Belarus. I'll be able to do that in Russia. I wouldn't be able to do that in Canada. I probably would be able to do that in a third foreign country, Ukraine, Kyrgyzstan. But but if you're thinking about like further down the line, so like the only other language I'm interested in studying is French. And I don't necessarily want to learn it in France anymore. I wanted to learn it in France, but now I don't want to learn. I don't want to live in France. I mean, if you're going to live in Paris, you might as well live in Quebec. I mean, it's like if you're Canadian, I'm saying. So, yeah, that's like the first step about looking at scenarios is to look at the similarities and differences. So now, if you've been thinking about like, oh, I think I might need a coach. So like, look at the similarities and differences. All right. So what are some similarities? Okay. So can you find another business coach with the price that I'm offering? Can you find another business coach with the program that I'm offering, these checklists? I promise you that there's no other person in the world who's teaching these checklists unless you call the author. Because there's been a lot of people who try to teach these checklists, but at the end of the day, it takes a little bit of time to really learn how to use them. Is then what about empathy? So are you comfortable? Do you have another business coach that you're comfortable talking to? Will they understand the difficulty sometimes where you're going to have a lot of different stressful situations? Can they maintain clarity as you go through your different emotional experiences? Is it a male or a female? What are the differences between cultures? What are the differences between sexes? What are the differences between other demographics? Age, for example. What's the difference between like somebody who lived in the same city their whole life compared to somebody who's been around the world? And one time, literally, I went around the world. One time, I flew from Calgary to Shanghai to Beijing, and then I took a train to Mongolia. Then I took a plane to France, and then I took the channel, like the underground train, to England, and then I flew from England back in through, I think it was through Montreal, and then back to Calgary. So I did one full revolution around the whole world. I'm like one revolution behind my age. I'm one. So I could technically say that my birthday was like one day before. I mean, it's the same birthday, but I've lived one day less, or was it one day more? What is it if you go the same? Maybe one day more, because I was going the same direction. No, I was going the same direction as the revolution of the Earth. Anyways, when you're talking about your providers, when you're working with your providers, like what's the differences and similarities between different providers? What are the differences and similarities between members of a team? What are the differences and similarities of different customers and different demographics? All right, so now you can see that if you have that Excel spreadsheet, then you'll be able to talk about like motivation. What's the difference of motivation? Like, are both of these providers coasting? Are they both competing? What is the differences around like what services they provide? How are we going to be supporting each other? Is there a difference for the way that we will be supporting each other? Is there a difference with the amount of staff that we'll need to be able to work together? Is there a difference with the amount of responsibilities that we will have? Are we going to have to remind them constantly for doing certain things? Can they present to us some type of software platform where we can keep track of each other's work? Like, how exactly is this partnership going to be working? What about the outcomes? Are the outcomes between a variety of customers the same? Are they looking for the same outcomes? How about the long-term reuses? Are they the same or are they different? All right. How about the actions, the specific actions, entity personas? You see all these different things that we've been talking about. We can now pinpoint and discuss, are they different or are they the same? Thank you for tuning into Space Between Ideas. I'm Blaine Gates.